Good evening, Sylvia.
Hi, Paulius.
It's nice to have you today. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Sylvia, could you please briefly introduce yourself so our listeners will know what to expect in the future?
Sure. So, yeah, my name's Sylvia. I'm German-Peruvian. I live in Madeira. I'm married and have two daughters. And I've been a full-time mom for over 7 years. And for about a year and a half now, I've been working on a project that's kind of become my job, if you will, where I'm setting up a project here in Madeira. You could call it a world schooling hub or a live-in community for people, for families whose kids don't go to school. And yeah, that's what I'm juggling with at the moment, just family, that project, jiu-jitsu, where I know you from, and
Yeah,
the other bits and bobs of life, household and stuff.
sweet, sweet. So, you have a really interesting project coming up. But before we get into the project, let's talk about why you have decided to begin it in the first place.
Mhm.
So, as I know, as we talked before, you have decided to homeschool your children and you have two lovely daughters. And can you tell me a little bit about what were the reasons why have you decided to choose this path of education instead of the traditional one?
Yeah. I didn't know much about homeschooling when I had my first daughter, but when I was pregnant, I started reading a lot about parenting books, reading parenting books, articles and stuff, because I wanted to be as prepared as possible and did a really good job at being a mother and raising a child or then two children. So through that, I really got into that because if you read up on gentle parenting, at some point you will stumble over, the attachment that the children meeting their needs. And you can't really do that if you have to give them into nursery when they're like 6 years or 6 months old or a year or even 2 years old, especially if they're not ready for it and if it's long hours. And I saw that a lot in Barcelona. That's where my daughter was born, where we lived at the time. And for me, even without having read those books, it felt unnatural and wrong to give my child away, a little baby who depended on me. And that was just half like the mother instinct in me and half using my logical thinking. But yeah, through the books, I read more about homeschooling and then unschooling, which is another thing because if you say homeschooling, people imagine that you replicate school at home, that you sit your kids down every day and for hours you teach them reading, writing, maths, and science and everything that they teach at school. But unschooling is actually just the natural way of learning. And it's been, as I said, 7 years now since I've been reading and living this lifestyle. Um, so for me, it's just every day I see my children and I realize that this is the natural way of living. School has existed for about 150 years. Before that, people would learn, what children would learn, by watching other people, adults, other kids being around people. And school is a very restrictive way of learning, or offers a very restrictive way of learning. It's kids who are being put into a classroom, all kids of the same ages, and then they have to just do as they're told. It kind of restricts or kills their creativity, their talent, their uniqueness. And it's not fun. At some point, kids don't enjoy school anymore. Most of them. In the beginning, it's still a lot of what children actually need, that what they would learn anyway, with or without school. It's like kids want to learn how to read, how to write, how to calculate. This is in the beginning, so everyone's like, "Yeah, I love school and I've learned so much." And but then it starts getting into things that not everyone is interested in and not everybody needs, not then and not later in life even. Like if you're interested in history, you'll find everything. You go for books and you ask people and you go into museums and online you can find everything nowadays. So it's so easy to learn everything you need and that you're interested in without schools. Yeah, and all those years I've been realizing more and more that this is the natural way of living and the best way for my children and for me as well, because I don't want to be the person who drags them out of bed in the morning, telling them, get dressed now, eat your food, go out of the door, and I'll pick you up in 6 to 8 hours, because that damages a relationship. It just does. Most
Sure.
teenagers get rebellious. They feel resentful because they're, the
Hmm.
parents, the teachers, they were just the authorities. They were the ones saying, you have to do this now, whether you like it or not, whether you need it or not, whether you want it or not, or even whether it's the truth or not. Like a lot of things that they teach at school is not even true. And I also realized that when I was studying, um, I asked the question, so is it like this or that now? And the teacher said, well, we don't know. It's just a theory. I said, what? You're
Hmm.
teaching me, like, you don't even know if it's true. And they didn't say it's a theory in the beginning. It's just a book telling, this is, I studied fitness economics. So I remember that was about stretching. So what's the best way to stretch? Like to warm up, to prevent injury and stuff. And there was a moment where I thought, what? Like, if they don't know this, what else do they not know that they teach us, telling us it's the truth or it's this way? So that's another way of saying, use your critical thinking. And at school, that's also something that's lost and not developed, because children just don't have to use their own brain. They just do as they're told. Um, you know, there's hardly any problem solving. It's really just this, do this. And if you do it good, you're worthy, you're valuable, you're liked, you're loved. And this is another whole different part of this, where children get put into this kind of hamster wheel of achievement and failure, where you say, so you either achieve or you fail. You get a good grade or a bad grade. You either liked or you disliked. Um, and it's the whole environment is, for me, too toxic, too damaging, and doesn't give enough benefits for me to send my kids there, because
Hmm.
my kids, they play with other kids every day, and of all ages. They are really good, in with other people. Doesn't matter if they're adults or old or young or tiny, like babies. They don't have this, I should only be playing with the same old children, or I have to be afraid of an adult because they are the authority. My kids don't have that, because we don't treat them like that. We treat our kids as our equal, because for me, they're just their own human being. They're not my property. They're not my, slaves or animals and my pets that I need to train. um, I see my job as just keeping them safe from serious danger or serious harm or death. I'm very much on that side.
Yeah.
I give them a lot of freedom, and I have done from the moment they were born. I let them, grab what they found on the street and put it in their mouth, because, you know, reading about things really helps. Then you can understand why children act a certain way. Why do babies put things to their mouth? It's because there is like this is sensitive area on the lip that they get to know an object better. So there is a reason for children to do what they do, because they're very much in touch with their instincts. And us adults, we've lost that. And if you just let children be, keep them safe, keep them not close as in stay with me, but give them the freedom. Because if you do that, you will see that they will go away from you bit by bit, feeling their own limits, their own, okay, this is too scary, go back to mommy now, or I'm going to try this out. And then, things happen and they get hurt a bit, and that's normal. But yeah, keep them just around you and let them decide when to do the next step, without pressure, without obligation, without saying, if you don't do this, or if you don't achieve this, or if you don't know how to do this, you're stupid. um, or the other way around. Like, I need to encourage, I need to praise, I need to say, oh great, well done, you have managed to, I don't know, open the door for the first time all by yourself. I don't do that, because that's just a normal thing that happens. And if I do this too often, of course, there have been moments where I was astonished and proud, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's so cute. But if you do that too often, children start to become like praise monkeys or praise junkies. They want the praise. They don't do things because they're curious or they want to find out, or there is an interest. They do it because they see people are watching and they're going to get applauded. So I'm very much on the I'm there, but um, I interfere as little as possible, and I interrupt as little as possible, because like play equals learning. And when they play, when they're even just sitting there and staring at the nothing, I know there is so much going on in their brain, and they could never, like, what happens in that moment, when they're figuring something out, when they're just sitting there, when they're daydreaming, when they're role playing, even when they're arguing or fighting, what happens there is nothing I could teach them in words or giving them a book. It's
Mhm.
let them live, let them live their lives, and they know best because they have the instincts still. Yeah, sorry, that was a very long explanation.
Cool. No, no, that's a great explanation. That's also a very good intro and a door into your perspective of not just teaching and education and schooling or learning, if it's not as guided as the traditional methods, and also your views on parenting and how just people grow up, and there's something within us that makes us do things, makes us learn, makes our bodies grow, and so on. And it has its own intelligence, and it seeks its own evolution naturally, and it doesn't necessarily have to be taught by a book. It knows best. So for sure. And I just wonder, when, let's say, other people know that your kids don't go to school, what are their reactions? Because still, I don't believe that it's yet as common as it could be, because most people just take it as a given, like marriage. You reach a certain age, you have to get married, or you reach a certain age, you have to have kids. It's like, just this is just what people do, right?
Yeah.
So most people think of school the same thing. It's just something that you do once you reach, I don't know, 7 years of age.
Mhm.
So whenever people hear that your kids don't do that, what are their responses or expressions or what
Yeah,
have you?
it's varied. I mean, of course, I try to um, kind of find my tribe,
Yeah.
people whose kids don't go to school, who are open to this, so it's easy to hang out. The kids really don't mind to play with kids who go to school or who don't go to school. They like them, just for their personalities. But yeah, the parents. I mean, my mom, for example, she is one of those who thinks they should go to school, and she's worried that they will never learn how to read or write. Um, and it
Hmm.
all depends on how open a person is, and if they have heard something about it. Like, being skeptical is all right, but then, like, my mom, she's very like, let's call it narrow-minded. She just believes that whatever she
Hmm.
believes is true, and that can be
Right.
tough, especially if she is someone so close to us, and I feel I can talk to her about things. I would love to tell her just, yeah, what we did today, and this and that has happened, but I never talk to her about it. It's If we talk about it, it's more
Mm.
like in a argumental way, because she started in a passive aggressive way, saying, um, I don't know, yeah, you should learn how to write, or
You
like,
will ruin your kids.
yes.
Something
Yeah, and
like
it's
that.
not, yeah, it's not even, not always towards me, but even to my children sometimes. And yeah,
Mm.
others are a bit more open, and they want to understand. They ask, so, but how do they learn? It's a genuine question, because if you haven't read anything about it, because all you hear is homeschoolers are this and this and that, like, there are weirdos and they don't know how to socialize, and maybe they're even stupid because they don't go to school. How are they going to learn? And stuff like that. So some people generally ask, but what about things like maths or reading or writing? And then I explain, like, it's just normal for kids to learn how to read or write or
Mhm.
calculate because it's part of our lives. It's very hard to keep them from learning all these things because it's everywhere on the screens now as well. It's in books, it's on the signs on the street, on the buses, and just playing with things, noticing there's 5 people and there's 10 people and now we're 15. It's just everywhere. And
Mhm.
just because they're not sitting down and reading in a book or you explaining it to them doesn't mean they're not learning it. It's like we were in the pool, Bo was 3, and she said, we're 3 people, like she meant Lima, Bo, and me. And then she said, but
Mhm.
now we're 5 because there were 2 other people in the water. So that's just, she notices there's nothing more I need to do. There's not me having to say, yes, and what about if 2 more people came? No, she chooses when to learn what. And yeah, other people are a bit like my mom, and I've never had a really bad experience. But I know this woman, she lives in Bali. She's got an, I think, 11-year-old and a 3-year-old daughter. And she said the people over there are extremely, I don't know how to put it, against against the homeschooling or unschooling thing. And she said her son has been told that, or asked, "Are you stupid?" or told, "You are stupid," or the neighbor said, "You're playing with a toy for a 3-year-old," and he said, "No, no, it's for a 14-year-old. Like, look at the, I think it was a gun, a toy gun." And then the neighbor said, "It doesn't matter, you're stupid anyway." And like some people can be really
Right.
harsh. Like luckily I never had this experience, but it's very, you know probably depends also how much you get yourself out of there, and maybe also how confident you are with this topic. And it took years for me to be confident to say, no, my kids don't go to school. And I'm not even saying homeschooling, I say unschooling or like freestyle education, because that's what it is. They decide what to learn and when.
It's actually quite funny because when you have been speaking about your and that woman's experiences, I remember when I first decided to become plant-based. So I decided, just not to eat meat, fish, eggs, dairy products. So I thought, okay, I'll go fully plant-based. So back then, it was like 8 or something years ago. Back then in Lithuania, it was not a thing yet. So my grandparents and even my parents thought like, this guy is going to die or get permanent brain damage if he doesn't eat meat. He's gonna get fucked. so they were very seriously worried that I know there's either I will die or something will I get some kind of an illness, and and there's nothing wrong with them thinking about it. It's just they haven't researched it. They haven't read about it. They haven't done any kind of research, and this is just what's floating around there as myths. And if you're a curious person, you just read up, you try to get more knowledge about it, and you get personal experience. You try things out, and you see whether it works or not.
Exactly.
And just as disclaimer, I'm no longer plant based. I live in Madeira. I cannot avoid fish. It's too good. so so but anyways, still no meat and still no brain damage. So I think I'm going to survive.
Yeah, and I think it's also like a very personal choice. And as you said, you have to try it because also unschooling or homeschooling is not for everyone either. Like some kids like the structure,
Certainly.
the need to structure. They like working with workbooks, and they want to, have a teacher who teaches them. It depends on the learning style, but I think it needs to come from the person, the child, or you who makes the decision. It couldn't be like your girlfriend saying all of a sudden, "Now, no more meat." It has to be your decision, and yeah, your research.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. And you know, everyone can have different kind of opinions. Like I heard from a mutual friend that Halloween is a worship of the Satan, devil's holiday, and it's created by LGBT. So this shows that
Okay.
This shows that the person has not read up on the history of Halloween or what it means. But he firmly believes that, and so
Yeah.
what can you say? So different people have different opinions. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, but he has read about something. I don't think he came up with that by himself. That's the thing. You pass on your beliefs to children or to other people, and if they don't learn how to critically think and question, then they believe, whatever their beliefs are. They just look for evidence to back up their beliefs that already exist that have been created in their childhood. They weren't born believing in Satan and or any meat or fish or vegetarian or vegan, whatever. It's we pass on our beliefs. Yeah, so that's another thing that we do. My husband and I, we try not to judge, or we always say, like when they ask a question, I say it's maybe because of that if I don't know the answer, but we'd have to read up on that and maybe look at a study. And I've heard that da da da, but I don't know if it's true. That's what I say a lot because
Mhm.
I just don't know much. It's things I have heard, I have
Yeah.
learned, but the truth is I don't actually know much. And not because I'm stupid, but because I've like for what 13 years I went to school.
Well, it's human nature.
Yes, exactly. Kids don't have a choice. They believe what their parents tell them. And yeah, we work a lot on ourselves to undo this conditioning so that we pass on as little as possible to our daughters, but we also make sure that their critical thinking is being kind of you know um, challenged, so that later in life,
Sure.
no matter who says what, they don't just believe it, they do their own research, they try it themselves.
Well, yeah, I guess you don't want to be overly intrusive into how human naturally forms because, again, there's a seed in all of us. And if we were left in a jungle, we would grow up one way. If we were left somewhere else, we would grow up another way. If we are
Exactly.
born into a society,
Mhm.
we'll develop another way. There's like natural occurring intelligence that just takes its course. And maybe like parents, as you have said, well, a job of a parent, it seems just to keep the kid safe in such a way that he just doesn't necessarily stupidly die. You can die easily for sure, but you don't want to be overprotective. It's just like you shouldn't try to stick the knife into your arm, right? It's like, yeah, it's sharp, but you shouldn't try it like that. So kids, maybe probably smart ones, will understand themselves, but some kids are more exploratory than others, so you have to maybe explain like, well, this is a thing that you would maybe probably not want to do.
Yeah.
But besides like keeping them safe, warm, and fed, everything else kind of happens naturally if the kid is exposed to the right circumstances and the right environments.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it sounds like unschooling is about that. I'm just very curious because I have never heard this term before, unschooling. I've
Mhm.
always heard homeschooling, that someone is home taught or something like that. So where did this word unschooling come from, at least in your lexicon?
Yeah, it's John Holt. He was a teacher, I think, in the 50s and 60s, maybe, or 60s, and in the 70s, he wrote a lot of books, and he came up with that term because he saw that the schooling system isn't optimal for the children's learning possibilities and abilities. And for him, it was go the other way of what schools are doing, give them freedom, just follow the child, and they will learn. That he hung out with lots of kids outside of school, um, outside of the school environment, of all ages, and he could see that even the little ones, they are super capable. Like if you just let them, they can figure out things for themselves. A bit of patience and a lot of freedom, tiny bit of guidance, being there to answer questions, and they learn so much. And there was a video. I think I was still pregnant with Lima, my oldest daughter, when I watched a video where they said that. when we're babies and toddlers and little children, our brain functions on genius level on like 98%. And that gets lower and lower. And when we're like 20 something, our brain operates at 2% genius level. And that's because school happens, because we're put into this kind of cage, this limited cage. If you give the children the freedom to just follow their interests and their instincts, they can continue, working on the genius level, even as an adult. And that really got me like, okay, I was always very like freedom giving because my parents were like that or are like that. Yeah, my mom was always there, like stay at home mom, but she wouldn't,
Yeah.
was just busy. She would do the household and everything.
Hmm.
We would play all day. My dad is even more extreme. He like challenges himself. He challenged us. We saw him challenging himself and doing crazy things and sometimes dangerous things, but very fearless. And yeah, he was never like too scared about us getting hurt. So he wasn't. He was the opposite of overprotective. Um, so I am very much on that side. My husband balances me out, and he's more on the cautious, like he sees danger everywhere side. Um, we need that. We need someone who balances us out, I suppose. But nothing bad has ever happened.
Sure, sure.
And I've spent almost 24/7 with them since they were born. So I think how I do it works.
Cool. Very good. Very good. And I believe that there are a lot of perks that come with just staying with your kids for longer, letting them develop on their own, maybe just guiding them here and there, wherever it's really seems natural and important to, because why not? You can. you're
Yeah.
you have experience, life experience, and maybe somewhere it won't infringe. But probably there might be some drawbacks as well. So, at least in your experience, have you noticed any drawbacks, or maybe from other uh, families that raise their kids and let them educate the natural way? Maybe they experience something and you would like to share.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think generally spoken, the main drawbacks for families like us is finding, a community, because the this let's say market is growing, but it's still not like there's a unschooler in every building or in
Yeah.
every city. Yes, but you have to find them. So the kids, there are times when the kids don't have that many kids to play with, which for me is not a problem, because I've seen that if we hang out less with children, they hang out with more with adults, which is also great for them. And we have cool friends and cool family members who we like to hang out with, and they learn a lot from them and being around them. And they treat them good, they don't treat them like, oh, you're an unschooler or something. It's nice. So that I can say for others. And then, yeah, of course, I have to either cut back on my time or set my firm boundaries to get some me time or do what I
Mhm.
want to do. That's not always easy. Um, and then, of course, if they're interested in something and providing this environment where they can learn more of that, finding a person or an online course or sitting there and learning it yourself, and you might not always be interested in that. um, I think these are a little bit of drawbacks, as I said, generally spoken. But for me, we had a little phase when Lima was 2.5, 3, when her friends started going to school. I hate saying that. Like, I want to say kindergarten, but it was actually school. They were being set by a table for longer than I could
Oh,
even, bear to sit on the table, because I don't like sitting down. Um, and that was the period, because before that we were always with friends, mornings, afternoons, travel, and we meet new people. So we moved. to the UK, and it was the same, not that many people around. But again, it's always how you face those challenges. If you fall down on your
Yeah.
knees and cry and say, "We don't have any friends," "I'm so lonely," or "My kids don't have this or that," the kids will, make a problem out of it as well. They will see a problem. I just posted 2 days ago an article. It says not a big deal, because if you make big deals out of things, you are manipulating the child, whether it's yours or another child. But if you just don't say anything, then the child can learn his or her own lesson. So try not to make a big deal out of anything. Just take life as it comes. There are lots of problems, and if you just deal with them, you become a very good problem solver. Drawbacks. No, it's really just that for us. I mean, some people are not very
Yeah.
outgoing or anxious. I used to be that way. I used to, all my childhood and in my 20s and even in my early 30s, I was very introverted and shy and low self-confidence. Um, but then something changed inside of me when Lima was born. And it wasn't something I did on purpose or that I worked hard for. It just happened naturally because I knew I wanted my daughter to have friends. So all of a sudden,
Right.
I found myself going up to people in the parks, in the playgrounds, on the beach, saying, "Hey, you want to hang out? You don't have my number. Let me know when you're here, and let's get together." And I started becoming this. Um, I mean, I did that before as well, but more. I always like to bring people together. Like I would organize a party or a
Yeah.
picnic or something, but I would be like on the outside, like organize it, but then I step away. But then with families, I really enjoyed it. It's especially finding not just friends for your kids, but adults you like to hang out with too. Because if your daughter has a best friend and I don't know, you don't like the mother or the father, and you hang out with
Hmm.
them a lot, or you know, finding friends for yourself as well. I guess these are the main challenges. I wouldn't say drawbacks, but challenges. And one thing, but I think that also applies to any parent, even kid with kids who go to school.
In general. Yeah.
Yeah, you doubt yourself. Is this the right thing? Am I damaging her? Should I, do something differently? Should she spend a few times a week, in a school environment? Or you do question it, but I think that's your mind popping in, your conditioning, my conditioning. And it's, as I said, it's gotten much
Yeah.
better.
I'm freaking out.
I've read so many books. I have now 7 years experience with my kids and their friends. Um, and it just grows and grows, this confidence about knowing this is the right way for us.
So one question that many people might have, and even I have, because I'm also curious, is what about, let's say, higher education? So if a kid that has been studying on his own decides to join a college or a university, so might the kid have some trouble getting into higher education if he has been learning on his own? Or it's just the same way, just you have to take some kind of exams like anyone does, and if you get proper results and you have a good motivational letter or whatever the university requires, you're just like welcome. So I wonder how that works, because probably that is also one of the concerns for many parents, and if they don't think or research until the very end, that might be a limitation, that just like, well, probably there's going to be trouble. And so to avoid that, if anyone who is listening has this question, well, we can maybe clear some doubts.
Yes. Well, for me, um, it was never a concern because I always knew it's like so far away, and the times change so much, so quickly. Everything is accessible online. There will be online universities in the future. No one's going to go to a place. They will choose their teachers online and learn this way. But it's the way you say it. It's like I did a tiny bit of research on that for other people to calm their minds, but I did this
Right.
research based on the Americans because there's the biggest homeschooling, unschooling audience. And there it is the way you say it. All the colleges and universities have just a form. This is the way to get in, do the test. If you've been homeschooled, it doesn't matter. And other people worry, but are they prepared for it? Is it like, will they be accepted? Yes, but are they prepared for it? And yes, they are prepared, or they get prepared, and they get quicker results. And they get better results. Studies show, like they have, I don't know if it was like 60
Yeah, I have heard about that. I also read.
yeah, percent success rate. They finish, and the people who have gone to school, they have like 40 something or 50% rate of finishing college. And yeah, the people who have been homeschooled or unschooled, they have experienced more freedom. They have experienced more like intrinsic motivation, and they know why they're doing
Mhm.
it. They're doing it because they're interested, because they love it, because yeah, they want to learn about this actually, and not because their parents told them, or because that's the only thing they're good at, or they think they could do or should do. So kids, like I have a podcast too, and I interviewed someone, I think she's around my age, maybe a bit younger, and she was homeschooled. When she was 9, she started school just to give it a try. And she said, if I had to, like, what I noticed the first day, and if I had to put it into words, it was all a big waste of time, because what they did at school
Yeah.
in a day, I would have done before breakfast. So it's, it's just so slow, and you have to stick to this pace. And some are quicker, others are slower, but because they're just not interested. But yeah, it is possible. And for the kids who have been homeschooled or unschooled, it's their choice. And then it makes it their responsibility. There's no one pushing or forcing them. So if they want something, they do it, they work for it. And I can see that children, people say, if you don't make them, they're not going to do it, whatever it is. If it's, homework, if it's learning a certain topic, if it's tidying, anything. People think kids are a bit lazy, and they just want to play, and they just do what they want to do, and they would never study anything or learn anything. But if you watch children, they always go the hard way. If you see them walk on the street, they're balancing here. They're gonna, don't step on the cracks, jump over here, then I'll carry on my back. And it's just all day long they find challenges for themselves. And everything is difficult in the beginning for everybody. When you're born, you have to roll over, you have to, you know coordinate your hands and fingers, your hands and yeah, fingers, um, like starting to crawl, then going on your feet, you're wobbling, you're falling down, you continue, you start walking and you fall and you continue. And that's in us. We want to learn, we want to do what the big people do. There is a huge intrinsic motivation. And that continues this way if you don't send them to school, where it's being killed because there's hardly any intrinsic motivation. If there's a kid super interested in a topic, the child has to stop learning about it after 45 minutes. Then they have to learn something else that they're not
Mhm.
interested in. So it's not very helpful, the school setting, for children's learning and yeah, abilities.
Well, it's still based on, like, as you said, like the 19th century, where factories were popping up because it was industrial revolution times, and well, factories need the workers, and if you need workers, you have to educate them so they know what to do, like inside the factory.
Mhm.
So it hasn't changed much. Of course, there has been a lot of modulations happening, and there are liberal schools, there are different kind of schools, there are different types of education and democratic schools. So there has been many attempts to um, we could say restructure the traditional schooling system,
Mhm.
but I don't see that any of them has reached their goals as much as they wanted to. So most likely following your personal inclinations, and there are books like Mastery by Robert Greene for a reason, just because most of the people that are like 20 or 30 who have been through many, well, we can say levels of education, but not learning anything that kind of correlates with their own internal, um, your own internal compass, where it leads you with your own interests. Most probably they forgot what those interests were. And then they're sitting home while they're 30 or 40, and they're thinking, well, I'm confused. I don't even know what I like. I'm doing all these things and I feel miserable. Why is that? Well, most likely because you're doing the right things socially, but the wrong things personally.
Yes.
So most likely, like for kids that have been just they didn't have to follow this route of you have to learn this, and they just learn what they feel like they need to learn, or maybe some things that their parents say, well, okay, this is still quite important, you should try this out if it's necessary. So then they don't lose this kind of um, internal navigation of and then they don't become most of the time, I guess they don't become mediocre either, because
Hmm.
let's say if I decided to be a data analyst, and whereas my strengths lie in communication, so most probably I'll be a mediocre data analyst at best because I'm not following my strengths.
Yeah.
I'm cutting against the grain instead of going with it. So most likely that's what people ought to do, is to go with the grain, but you cannot do that unless you know where the grain is leading. So, but anyway, going back to the community building and your project. So, as you have mentioned before, the community or the lack of community is one of the major drawbacks for people who have decided to, let's say, have their kids at home and not send them to school. And sometimes it's hard to find like minded people and, well, to support each other, because the more the merrier. And what is that what your project on Madeira is about?
Yes, absolutely. It's meeting all these people's needs, because it's going to be more like a neighborhood, actually. We're going to be living on that land and with lots of other families, everyone in their own house. Um, but then we'll also have some extra lodgings for people who come and go, but they will have to stay at least for a month,
Mhm.
because the kids, like the learning facilities, I don't even call it a school. For me, it's learning facilities. Um, the kids and the staff members from those learning facilities, because we have some facilitators there teaching certain topics that children can join if they want to, if they're interested. Um, Only those people, kids and facilitators, will be holding weekly democratic meetings where they talk about what happened, were there any problems, what are the solutions, what do we do about this. So yeah, every week they will get to vote. Every person has one vote, doesn't matter how old they are or how knowledgeable about a certain topic. Everybody has a voice, um, but all within this community of people of all ages. Parents are there so that when children want to go to see their mom or their dad at home or in the co-working space that we will have, then they can go there. So it's this, what I call natural separation, that will happen, that the child will decide on. So, like, my children are 3, almost 4. In January, Bo will be 4 and 7 years old, and they still like, with when they feel very comfortable and good with some friends of ours, they go hang out with them without me. But I could never drop them at a birthday party where they don't know many people, or even if they know them, if they don't want to be without me, I don't drop them off and leave. um, I've never done that. Like, we tried like a kindergarten with Lima when she was smaller, and I tried, like, okay, I'm gonna go shopping quickly and come back in like 20 minutes, and she would be crying very very hard, and only I was able to
Yeah.
console her. So I, okay, if she's not ready, she's not ready. It's fine with me. So we'll have this environment where the kids can freely roam around, because we'll have this 100,000 square meter big piece of land, green, all green, where they can just, explore, be in nature, be with kids of all ages. We'll have literally all ages, like from zero, from tiny babies, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 11, 15, all the ages. And yeah, the learning environment will be very diverse. We'll have in the beginning the basics of different types of interest, like musical instruments. We'll have a science room, we'll have a kitchen, we'll have I want a tatami area to do some jujitsu. And
Yeah,
yeah,
please
just
do. Please have one.
yeah, and the kids can just do what they want, do what they like. We'll also have a coding expert there who will be teaching classes, whole computer room, library. um, and if the kids, they will create their own little groups, like, okay, we like this, let's do this together, or we need this and that, then we'll provide it. We're not going to be buying things that we can build. We will buy the material so they can build it themselves with some help if they need it. um, but it's all about just giving kids the like maximum freedom within a safe environment. Even if there's some, I don't know, 10 and 12-year olds who want to take a bus and go into town, they can do that. It's just a real life setting, um like for our world. Because here people don't do that. They like my friend, her daughter is 7, but she was 6 at a time. She The daughter walked alone to the supermarket, to the shop, which was 1 minute away from the house. And then at the next school meeting, the teacher said, we've seen your daughter going alone to the shops. It's very dangerous and you shouldn't be doing that, and if you do that again, we're going to call the authorities on you. And um,
Okay.
like this is a very safe environment here in Madeira. And she's been walking that road, this 1 minute walk, like for a whole year, and she felt comfortable with it. Her mother didn't force her. And I think that's sad, that it was probably nice for her to, oh, I can do this by myself, and my mom lets me, and I'm gonna go buy something. And what an experience, what a way to learn. And yeah, that's what we want for our kids. Yeah, keeping that freedom up. And yeah, we'll have animals, because kids love animals and they learn a lot from animals too, and taking care, and taking care of each other. We know that the older kids will be taking care of the younger ones and teaching them, and vice versa. Even we'll grow some food, we'll have chickens and get the eggs. We'll have a beekeeper there who will have some bees and we'll get honey. And everything we will build there as a community. Yeah, and I don't know if I'm missing anything out. But yeah, that's what we want.
Well,
Like for
I
me,
do have one question
yeah.
there.
Hmm.
Like when you have told the story about the one of your acquaintances that used to let the kid out to the shop, which is, well, I used to do that. No one said they're going to call the authorities,
Yeah.
but I did in the countryside. No one cared because different environment, different people. But anyways, I wonder how much authorities can intervene in these kind of communities, because maybe some people think, well, this is a sect, like people are doing weird stuff that we don't do. So if people get, so to say, concerned, could they call upon the authorities? And if they do, how much right the authorities have to intervene, and let's say saying, well, this shouldn't be, will take away your kids.
Yeah, that doesn't happen here. That happens in Germany. They take away your kids if you don't send them to school. Um, where like the business, that is going to be a campsite, so it's mainly going to be for people who travel, who come and go. But homeschooling is allowed in Portugal. And like my daughters, for example, they have the British passport, and we follow the British school system still. That with that, I want to say that
Mhm.
homeschooling and unschooling is allowed in the UK. So that's what we're doing. We could use an online platform that makes them feel better and like yeah, makes them feel better. The authorities, that they learn something
Yeah.
online, that they could, talk to them and say, what are you teaching? And that's something we would do if anybody ever asked. But in general, we'll be on a piece of land a bit further up, further away from the city center. We won't have any neighbors. We won't be troubling anybody with noise or so. Um, of course, it's an island. Everybody will at some point know about this weird community. But yeah, it, we're also in the Bitcoin community, and they
Yeah.
are closely, well, yeah, they're in touch, let's say, with the president of Madeira, who is also, you know, he likes Bitcoin. He wants to implement it. He is very open to it. And yeah, this Bitcoin community is talking about um, getting an agreement with the president. Of course, this is something he hasn't even heard about, or maybe he has. No, he has, yeah. Um, but that
Hmm.
people who want to come and live here, who are Bitcoiners, or on that freedom side, don't want to send their kids to school, because it doesn't make sense. If we like Bitcoin because it gives us the freedom to have authority over our own money, so that no person can take it away from us because we're not behaving correctly or they're running out of money. Um, but then sending the kids to school is contradicts itself. So most Bitcoiners who have kids homeschool or unschool their kids, and the Bitcoin community is also growing, and that's something the president wants, because they are bringing money and new business opportunities, more jobs. So there is a chance that in the future we will be officially and legally unschooling our children here on Madeira. But if not, we will either join an online platform, or we will actually just spend 6 months of the year here and then 6 months somewhere else traveling, which we would really enjoy. Because the business will be set up in a way that,
Sounds good.
yeah, I don't have to be there, manage, and be the boss. That would be another contradiction. I'll create the space, and I'll make sure that the values and the foundation of it are strong and will not be moved or changed, which is children will always be our equals and have the freedom to do and learn what they want, always respecting other people's boundaries. But so do the adults. um, you know but other than that, at some
Gotcha.
point we'll be able to travel, and we actually would like to, in the next few years, build some more hubs. Like, it's the project is called A Place to Be, and would like a place to be Madeira, and then maybe a place to be maybe Spain or Greece or Croatia or something. So we just, go for see my mom for 2 months in Germany, and then we'll go spend 3 months in Croatia in the A Place to Be hub, where we'll meet friends and we'll have the same or similar experience, because the learning environments and the what the community decides will be different from hub to hub. Um, but we will always know that we'll be kind of free or freer there.
So, where can people read up more about the project? Is it a placetobe.com
No,
or
a place to
is it a
be.
different
Yes,
website?
it's a place to be.me, me at the end.
All right, placetobe.me.
Yeah.
So I'll put it in the lesson description.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, not a lesson. I have been teaching before online, so now everything is a lesson for me. So I'll put it in the video notes.
Mhm.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. And maybe before we part, I'm also very curious when you have said that in UK and in Portugal you can homeschool your kids and it's not a problem. Uh, the authorities recognize it and it's legitimate. Whereas in Germany it's a little bit different. So do you mean like everyone has to go to school whether they want or not, or how does it work in Germany?
Yes, they have to. There are some, like, free democratic schools, more liberal, where the children, there's, age mixing. Not everyone's the same age in the classroom. They play a lot more. They're free to choose, what to do, what to focus on. but they still have to go there. Like my best friend's son, he goes to such a school, and there are days where he doesn't want to go, but he has to. So, you know, it's
Hmm.
better than the ordinary school, but it's still a must. And here, homeschooling is allowed, but it's very restricted. It's the kids have to follow the curriculum, and they have to do tests. I think 3 or 4 tests in the whole school career. But that's not an option for us either, because we would have to, get some of these lessons and topics in that none of us is interested in or needs. So yeah, we're following with the British passports. We're still connected to the British school system, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, so interestingly, out of these three, it seems like the British schooling system is the most liberal one when it comes to unschooling or homeschooling, at least from what I gather. And if you compare, let's say, the United States with the United Kingdom, where do you think which system is better for homeschoolers?
Well, I think it all depends also on the county or the state they're in. I'm not sure if in the UK in general you can unschool, um, and and now in the US it depends on the state. Some are more liberal, others are less. So some have to, register at a
Mhm.
school, and they have to do the tests, or somebody comes home every month or year, and they have to interview the kids or the parents. In the UK, I think it's a bit more liberal. Like you don't even have to send your kids or register your kid at a school, um, because like there's like 100,000, over 100,000 kids who are homeschooled in the UK, but these are only the children who have started school and have been taken out to be homeschooled. The children who have never even started school, have never been registered, they're not reflected in those numbers. So it's way more. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to send your child
Mhm.
to school in the UK.
Okay, okay, that's good also to know because I'm not certain how is it in Lithuania, but I think if you decide to let your kids stay at home, then you have to like do some exams and tests over the school years to show that the kid is still up to standard in
Yeah.
the standards, at least when it comes to the teaching curriculum in the traditional education. So but yeah, this was very enlightening, and I'm very curious to see how your project develops over time. And if people want to connect with you directly, should they go to the website, or is there another way to reach you if someone wants to ask some questions?
Yeah, I mean, the email is info@aplacetobe.me, but I would suggest to go on the website, and there are all the social media links that this email. I'm mainly on Instagram, but we're also on Twitter and Nostra and Facebook. But the main social media account I use is Instagram.
Good, good. Well, keep me updated. Maybe I'll be one of the facilitators in the future if I can facilitate something. We'll see. But it does seem like a very curious and innovative project. So I wish you all the best, and let's stay in touch.
Hmm.
And when the project develops, we'll do a round two to give people some updates about that.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Paulius. It was really fun.
Yeah. And until next time, Sylvia. Good
Okay,
luck.
see you.